In this video, you will learn everything you need to know about the early laning phase in top lane. The way you play your early laning phase determines the way the rest of the game plays out, and is arguably the most important skill to develop as a top laner. A quick introduction about me. My name is Luca, a challenger top laner from the Netherlands, playing on the EUS server. I hit 1400 LP, 1433 to be specific, rank 22 this season, and I've been a coach for almost a year now. And that being said, let's just get straight into the video. First, you have to understand that top lane is not a 1v1 role, but it's actually a 2v2 role, because all decisions we make on top lane have both junglers in mind. If we get something called priority, or push some people call it, we get full control of the laning phase and we can dictate how we want to play the early game. So that being said, let's look at what priority is and why it's important to get priority. Now, priority simply means getting to push the wave and therefore the first crash into the enemy tower. When you get push, you have the means and usually a level lead, making it hard for the enemy top laner to contest you. After you crash the first wave, a crucial decision is to be made. Do we push the wave back into the enemy, or do we let the wave push into us? But in order to make that decision, we really need to understand what junglers do and how they interact with top lane. Most junglers want to full clear, and if you're playing in the elos where junglers sometimes like level 2 gank or something, then you just have to understand that they're really shooting themselves in the foot by doing so, because they're losing out on tempo. Because if your jungler is full clearing and the enemy jungler is doing a level 2 gank and you survive it, then the enemy jungler is just completely fucked. And now I want to explain the pathings, and I'll show you how having priority makes a massive difference. Okay. Let's talk about what happens when you get priority. So let's say that I'm playing Darius and the enemy top laner is playing Olaf. Okay, very volatile matchup, level 1. Realistically, Olaf gets priority, but let's say that we do instead, right? And we're playing Darius. Let's say we get push, right, priority, and we get the level lead, level 2, so Olaf has to respect, right, and we get the first crash. Okay, now something you have to know about League of Legends is when you crash a wave, the wave pushes back into you as long as both players don't really interact with the wave, right? If you just last hit, then the wave will eventually come to a point where it's here, and then you can try to threaten a freeze, which is for like 80% of top laners, that is the end goal, right? Getting a perma freeze really makes it so that the enemy top laner cannot really play the game anymore. So, whenever we do this situation where we, let's say, crash 2 waves simultaneously under the turrets, right? So the second wave, we call this a 2-wave crash. We have a dilemma, because whether we let the wave push back into us or push it back into them depends on where both junglers are pathing. So let me explain, right? If your jungler is pathing towards bot this game, okay, and the enemy jungler is pathing towards top, there will be a situation where if you push the wave back into Olaf on wave 3 or 4, by the time you're trying to crash wave 3 or 4, the jungler will be topside and will be able to gank you, right? Even if you have a ward, if they're trying to gank you, you have to respect and drop a lot of CS here, so it's not worth it. But if you know that the enemy jungler is pathing towards top and your jungler isn't, then you can crash wave 2, let the wave bounce, right, and then you can catch it safely under your turret by the time the enemy jungler is top lane, and as long as you're not too low HP, you won't get dived, and you basically evaded a weak side situation. There's another option you have as well, which is to do a 2-wave crash and then look for a wave 3 proxy. Now this is really good if you don't have TP, because if you don't have TP, usually what happens after you collect the wave here is the enemy top laner will base, spend their gold, come back, and you can't really push out the wave yet, and now you're in a position where you have to kind of force out this bounce despite being down in items, right? And then usually the enemy top laner can maybe contest you. But by this time, your jungler is done with this full clear and will be around topside to help you push out the wave sometimes, not always. So that's a situation that can occur. So in order to avoid this situation, we can do a 2-wave crash and then proxy wave 3 and base. Now the enemy jungler will be around here by the time you're doing the wave 3 proxy and base, but if the enemy top laner tries to kill you, they are dropping an entire wave to do so, and you can be annoying, right? You can just pop ghost, flash over this wall, try to escape, and even if you die, it's kind of worth, because this top laner loses a full wave for kill. It's not that bad, right? But if it does work and you base, well, then you're gonna come back to a wave that's even, and it's really nice because you can actually spend your gold, right? Because usually the problem is after 2-wave crash we can't base. Why? Because we only have around 200 to 250 gold, which is just not that much. So this is the weak side scenario. So let's look at a different one. Okay, let's look at the strong side scenario. Okay, so enemy jungler is pathing towards bot, my jungler is pathing towards top, right? It's just super normal. What happens when we get priority? If we get the first crash and let the wave push back into us, by the time our wave is here, it's kind of not frozen yet, but we can freeze it. Our jungler will be topside because he does 6 camps into Scuttle into top, right? And then the enemy top laner is cooked. Why? Because by the time my jungler's here, I can freeze this, and if we want to, we can either kill him, right? A lot of top players won't respect this. Or even if we don't kill him, we can zone him off the XP of the wave, right? If this is a freeze here, we can just stand here and let him lose all this XP. And at some point your jungler has to base and go bot because his camps are spawning, he can't waste so much time. But that's a small lead, right? And small wins matter a lot. Let's look at another situation, right? And we're going to go to the 2v2 situation next. What do you think that means? That means both junglers batting towards top lane, right? Okay, boom. Both junglers are batting towards top. Now, what does it mean? This means that both junglers want one thing, and that's Scuttle Crab, okay? The person that gets Scuttle Crab is usually the person with top lane and mid lane priority. Okay, so what is our goal after we crash wave 2? Well, we have a couple options. Either we let the wave push back into us and then try to 2v2 on this freeze, but that's usually very hard to do. The reason it's hard to do is because Olaf will be level 4 to your level 3 and he'll have the minion lead, right? So, and if you die on this 2v2, it's a pretty big risk because you're gonna lose all those creeps because he has a slow push. So you really need to estimate whether or not you can win that 2v2 before you do it. So that's like the least consistent option. What I would say is another good option is to, after crashing the wave, you can still look for that proxy, and then after the proxy, your jungler can do 3 camps and come invade with you. But you need good communication for this. You need to be very, like from the start already kind of need to map this out and tell your plan to your jungler, hey, I want to do 3 of crash into invade, can you come after 3 camps? Yes or no? The last option you have is just to, after crashing on wave 2, just push it back into him, right? Contest wave 3, crash wave 4 back into the Olaf, because that entire time you will have both junglers top and you can actually move to Scuttle first. And a lot of times, if the enemy jungler is invading, you can actually move here without losing any creeps because the wave is pushing towards you, so you can also be annoying to the enemy jungler. So that's a 2v2 scenario. And let's talk about the last one, which is isolation, right? Isolation, where both junglers are pathing towards bot lane. Now in the isolation, it's really just a 1v1 game at this point. However, a lot of times the jungler that doesn't get the bot scuttle will go to top scuttle, and therefore there will be a situation where you're not fully isolated, so you still need to use your wards and stuff, right? But okay, both the junglers pathing towards top. In this case, it really depends if you have TP or no TP, because if you have TP, usually it's fine to do a 2-wave crash and then contest the bounce, and if it doesn't work out and the enemy gets a crash anyway, you can just base TP and you can play out the next bounce, right, when it's pushing towards the enemies. However, if you don't have TP, you really need to have a good matchup understanding. This is where matchup understanding is really important. Why? Because when you don't have TP and you try to get a freeze by crashing the wavelength and bounce, if your champ just isn't simply strong enough in this matchup, it really depends per matchup, right? If I'm playing a scale, this will be my plan, right? 2-wave crash and then let the wave freeze and then just try to kill her. But if I'm not playing a scale, if I'm playing as Olaf, it's a lot harder to do this because Olaf is a lot stronger champion and he can actually contest the wave. So against Olaf, my plan would be something like this: 2-wave crash, proxy wave 3, base, come back, have item lead, and then try to play aggressively. But again, whether or not you can crash the wave and freeze, that is purely, it's like a high skill, high reward, but also the better you are at your matchup and the better understanding you have of your matchup, like the small intricate details maybe, right? You can actually maybe pull this off in a 1v1 scenario as well. But yeah, that's just 2 options you have. So now you can see. Also, let's before we come to the conclusion, let's discuss the other things we have, right? We have 2 more actually, where your jungler is, for example, doing a vertical clear, right? So enemy red buff into your blue buff or vice versa. This is just basically Strongside, right? Because the entire time your jungler is around you and the enemy jungler isn't, and vice versa. If the enemy jungler is doing this vertical clear, that's just called Weakside, right? So yes, you have some variations, but it all comes down to the same exact thing, and that nothing changes when it comes to your wave management either. So 2 things. 1, we are assuming that we know where the enemy jungler starts. Okay, so how do we actually plan around this? Because we need to know early, right? We have a dilemma once we crash wave 2. What do we do with the wave? Well, we don't know that unless we know where the enemy jungler is going. Of course, we know where our jungler is going, but the enemy jungler is a mystery, right? So what's the solution? The solution is to ask your mid laner or your bot lane or whatever to ward enemy raptors. Why enemy raptors? Because if the enemy jungler starts red or raptors, you will see them, and you know for a fact that they're doing topside into bot side, okay? So you know really early that they're going here, okay? What if you don't see them on raptors? Okay, there is a really high chance, if you don't see them on raptors, by using just deduction, that they're starting bot side, right? And they're going towards top, and that's also something. The lack of information is itself information, right? Often though, when enemy jungler starts red, they can do sometimes Krugs into raptors, and then it's a bit delayed, but at some point you will know, okay? Like, you will know, so you can actually plan around it after crashing on wave 2. So yeah, that's kind of the dilemma I have, and the reason you don't want to use your own ward is because often when the enemy jungler does raptors into red, into Krugs, their only option is to go top lane, right? Because look how inefficient the pathing would be. If they do this, and then go bot side, why wouldn't they just go boom, 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 and this is a lot faster? Because they want to gank top on level 3, right? 3 camps at the top. The gank timer for top lane is 3 camps, but top lane, if you crash on wave 2, you avoid the 3 camps into top gank. But if you don't crash on wave 2, if you're still killing wave 3 right here, then you're vulnerable to the gank. So now we need our ward to be able to spot that gank, right? So having our own ward is really important to be able to spot that gank, because you don't know for sure if the enemy top laner will contest you. And if they do contest you, often the case will be that even if you get priority, you're going to have to delay your second wave crash to a 3-wave crash, which is a downgrade, because again, the enemy jungler can maybe gank you, right? So we ask our team to ward for us so that we have our own ward, and then we can use our own ward to actually evade those ganks. Now, sometimes the enemy jungler can like jump over this pit here and then gank you like this. If they do that, I mean, congrats. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot avoid that gank, like, because you have to ward here to see them early. If they do this gank, they're just the best player in the world. You die, whatever, you know. And it will rarely happen in your game, so don't worry about that too much. So now you know that you need to ask your team to ward so that you fix this dilemma, and you know where the enemy jungler starts, even by using deduction, right? And you can actually create a plan around it, which is super, super important. Now you can see that in every single scenario, having priority is a positive outcome. Having priority gives you full control of the wave. It lets you survive Weakside, it lets you make kills on Strongside, it lets you invade, it lets you respond to invades, it lets you have priority for Scuttle, it lets you have full control of everything. Executing properly on your level 1 wave management is so important. Getting priority is so important, and often people stand AFK in lane and they don't contest the wave level 1, even in matches where they can. If your enemy top laner is leashing or something, just use it and take priority, and then you just have an entirely different game than what it's supposed to be. So yeah, that's part 1. Now we're going on to part 2, which is how to create a plan for the first waves. So how are we going to create a plan for the first waves? Ask any player who was in high elo, who's a top laner, you have a plan. You go into a game with a plan. Now, some people do this really quickly because they're used to it. Some people need to think a little bit before they create a plan. Step 1. We look at our matchup, right? How should the matchup go, assuming both players played well, right? Assuming both players played well, because there's wiggle room, basically, right? Is there any way we can swing the matchup using a specific setup, or if the enemy top laner doesn't show up in lane right on time, maybe we can actually hit the minions before him and get priority that way, or maybe like if you're playing Sion, you can like cheese in the second bush and get a fully charged Q, and that swings the matchup, maybe, right? Step 2, looking at runes and summoner spells, okay? Is there anything that can make it harder to fight them, right? Let's say maybe they have Ignite Bone Plating instead of TP and cookies, right? Okay, maybe that will switch the matchup, but you don't know if you don't check, right? So that's why level 1, we press tab, we look at their setup, right? We look at their items, we look at their runes, and we look at their summoner spells, right? And then we start thinking a little bit like, okay, how should trades go in this matchup? And if he has Ignite, can I still get priority? And okay, maybe I choose W this matchup instead of Q, right? And this is where experience and champion mastery comes into play. Step 3 is looking at the top jungle 2v2. This is an important step because sometimes you can 2v2 on the freeze, as I said, but sometimes you want to push the wave back into them to have priority for Scuttle Crab, and on top of that, knowing who the enemy jungler is super important because you don't ward the same way against every jungler. When you're looking at the enemy jungler ganking you, you're looking at the minimap. You're not looking at the river with your camera. No, you're focused on top lane. You're looking at the minimap. So, if you look at the minimap, if Viego presses E and he ganks you, right? If your ward is here in this bush, you're not going to be able to spot him. you don't see him, and he's just in your lane with this fog, and you just die, right? So you want to ward deep. Same thing for any jungler that's fast. Nunu, you want to ward deep, because even if you have a ward and you see him, by the time you see him, he's already too fast and it's already too late, right? So any champion that's fast, boom, Hecarim. How do you ward against Hecarim? Against Hecarim, you ward deep as well, because he has his E and Ghost, he can just speed up, and by the time you see him on your ward, on your minimap, it's already too late. So against some champions, you want to ward very deep. If a Rengar is ganking you, where do you think they're coming from? They will 90% of the time gank from bushes. So if you're playing aggressively on the freeze here, you always want to have a ward inside of the second bush. But these are just different ways to ward against certain champions, right? And that's why you look at the top 2v2 for those couple reasons. And then step 4 is making the plan, right? Using all this information to make a plan, right? Using all this info to execute on it. This is the essence of top lane. Now I'm going to go over a couple games, and I'll be sharing my thought process, and you will see how I implement this plan around the enemy jungler and my jungler, and see me execute on it. And after that, I will be going into how to get priority and how to use all those little details to actually play your laning phase really cleanly. But first, we're going to look at the early game wave state plan. Okay, let's go over the first example, Strongside. In this game, I'm playing Olaf against Darius. Now, whoever gets prio in this matchup is a pretty 50-50 skill, because if Darius does like auto attack W and gets 2 stacks on me and then pops Ghost, he actually wins. But if I don't allow him to get 2 stacks and Ghost on me, I can get prio, because if I don't waste my Q, I actually win a level 1 all in. But it's really hard, and it's 50-50. But I know that my jungler is pathing towards top, and the enemy jungler is not showing on their bot side, which means, yeah, you know this, he's starting top side, right? Deduction, right? The fact that he's not showing bot means he's starting top, going into bot. What does that mean? We are playing strong side. Yes, we're playing strong side this game. So how do we want to operate? We really want to get the first crash, as always. Why specifically in this game? Because if we can get the first crash, we can let the wave bounce to us. The enemy top laner will be fucked, right? Because our jungler, by the time the wave is freezing, our jungler will be top side. Right, so here, why did we ward level 1? Because we're scared that the enemy jungler might do 3 camps into top, so we are going to ward for that specifically. Why? Because we know, as we talked about, that if the enemy top laner provides a lot of resistance in us crashing wave 2, we might have to end up crashing on wave 3. If we crash on wave 3, there is a timer where the enemy jungler does 3 camps into top between wave 2 and 3. And if I don't have a ward for that, I'm going to die. So why not ward after wave 2? If I ward after wave 2, I have to walk down and ward, and during that time Darius can thin out my wave, or even worse, push it back into me. I need to have constant pressure. So I ward level 1. Okay. Now that we have that out of the way, we're going to get this crash, right? Darius is late on the wave. That's so bad. I'm saying, like, if Darius is on this wave right now, there is a chance that he gets priority if he plays it well. Okay, he's not. Perfect. We're going to get level 2 before him. We're going to crash wave 2 here. After crashing wave 2, crucial that I don't fuck this up and let the wave push into me. After the wave pushes into me, now you can see by the time I have a freeze, my Jarvan is done with 6 camps and he's looking to gank me. I preserved my health. Now we're going to look for the skill. I really want my Jarvan to just come in and just kill this guy, right? And we end up killing him. And I think that my Jarvan dies for it. Yeah, my Jarvan does die for it, but it's worth 1 for 1. You see, even if Darius gets a kill, I don't care. Why not? Because look at my wave, right? It's a massive wave. I can recall, and the wave will be really chill, and I get most of it, and Darius loses a lot, right? That's the strong side scenario, guys. Even if we don't kill the Darius here, he is forced to recall and come back. You see? Even if you don't kill him here, he is too low to stay now, and I have a full freeze. He is forced to base. And my plan then would be to just match his recall. If he recalls, I recall. If he stays, I stay, right? And I can keep playing aggressively the enemy jungler spot side, and this is a really, really consistent way of doing this. So that's the strong side scenario. Alright, so this is a good example of whenever you're playing strong side, but you don't get the early priority, right? So ironically, we're playing Mundo, and yes, we want to push, but unfortunately, our champ is just not as strong as his level 1, right? He's going to be winning the priority here. And, well, let's see what happens. He gets the first crash because he's stronger, and then my jungler is topside, but by the time my jungler is done with the clear, she can't gank me. Why not? Because Jax has good wave management. He lets the wave push towards him, and then look, I can't do anything. Look, my jungler is not in a position to gank this guy because he got the first crash. If I had the first crash this game, he would be gankable right now because I would be able to hold the wave, I would be able to freeze, and then my Kenna can gank. And even if we don't kill the Jax, as long as we chunk him, he can't continue laning anymore. And that's really important, right? And, well, now, unfortunately, nothing to gain. So, that's if you play Strongside and don't get priority, and you see how important it is to get the first crash. It's so important. Okay, so in this game, instead of my team warding, they didn't ward for me, which is fine because sometimes you can actually face check the enemy blue buff. Why don't I place a ward here? Because I don't need to place a ward. The information of knowing that he's not here is enough for me. I can deduce that he's going to path from bot to top. In other words, now I know that I'm playing Weakside, right? Because my jungler is doing 3 camps and then most likely going to either enemy topside jungle to invade or towards her own blue buff. But we don't know that, but however, my plan already this game is going to be something along the lines of, oh, I have prio in my lane because I'm playing Olaf against Zac, my champ is stronger, so if I can proxy wave 3, we can actually invade blue buff if my Zarya wants to, right? If she's not willing, I'm going to base. Now, why is this such a good plan? First of all, if I proxy wave 3, I completely evade the gank angle, right? I also evade the gank angle by just crashing wave 2 and letting it push towards me, but then I'm going to have to give the enemy top laner the crash, and that sucks, right? So I'd rather get wave 3 in, base, and then I can actually spend my gold, because as you know, after crashing on wave 2, you don't really get to spend any gold, you only have like 200 to 250 gold. So this is a really solid plan. Now, the reason why I'm allowed to face check this blue is 2 reasons. One, if I face check the enemy top laner while I go back to top, I win that. Often, let's say this is a champion that's stronger than me level 1. Which champ is stronger than Olaf level 1? I don't even know, maybe like a Warwick or something, right? If this was a Warwick, I would not do this, because there's a chance he's just in the bush and then I'm just zoned from my wave, right? But I know I can do it. Second reason, face checking the enemy blue, often you will be late to your wave, and the enemy top laner can actually get priority because of the fact that you're late, right? So you have to be very careful with doing this. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know if you can get prior despite being late to your wave, and you need to know if you can actually enter lane against the enemy champion. So here I face check blue. Now I know I'm playing Weakside, right? We're playing Weakside, and if you're playing Weakside, getting a proxy on wave 3 is super broken. So what we're doing, slow pushing wave 1, hard pushing wave 2, proxying wave 3, basing. I completely dodged the Viego gank. I completely dodged it, right? Coming back, and now I can actually spend my gold, right? I only lost 1 XP. I actually bought a longsword here, and now I'm laning against Zac with a longsword against no items, right? He didn't buy anything. So here I know that the enemy Viego is most likely going to be on this top scuttle. He actually ends up showing bot lane here, so I know that I'm safe. And what I do, crash the wave, proxy. This time, instead of proxying, we really want to kill the Viego because he's on top scuttle, apparently. So I move there, and we actually end up killing him. And that I get rewarded, and then I base TP, and then that's how the early lane phase went, right? So that's something you can do as well if you're playing Weakside. In this example, we are playing Mundo against Jax, and we're playing full Weakside, vertical Weakside, we call this. The enemy jungler is doing our entire top side and his entire top side, and my jungler is doing the opposite, right? So we're playing super Weakside here, and look, we're going to have to give him the push because he's playing Jax and I'm playing Mundo, right? And then after this wave pushes back towards Jax, now I'm in trouble because at some point this wave will freeze, and when the freeze happens, I'm going to be exposed to ganks. Why? Because I'm very far away from my turret usually, right? So right now I can still play a little bit aggressively, but at some point the wave will be in a spot where, for example here, right now if Jarvan comes, if I want these creeps here, I'm going to have to be very far from my tower, so if Jarvan comes I can just die. Also, I cannot ward right now because there's a chance he's just in that bush and he just EQs me and I'm dead, right? So here all I have to do is just respect the fact that he's topside and just sit in XP range. That's all I can do, right? And sometimes the best play is to cut losses, and here that's what I'm doing exactly. Not dying right now is the best thing I can do. So just standing in the XP range, right? Making sure that I don't get ganked here. My Zara is on the way to help me, and after getting this XP right here, I'm going to base teleport, and when I TP back, now I'm full HP and I can actually get the crash. And after getting the crash, now I still get ganked, but I get the 1-for-1 here, right? So this is kind of greedy on my part, though. I should just ward before playing aggressively, and yeah, this is just my mistake, but I get the 1-for-1 and the wave is good for me. So since I'm playing Mundo, having this scaling champion, right, doing plays like that is actually super good. Okay, so in this game, I have a stronger early game. I'm playing as Yorick, right, so I win level 1. I also got a good chunk, but that's besides the point. And both junglers are pathing towards top, which means that we're in the 2v2, exactly, right? We're in the 2v2 scenario here, and we're looking to get priority, and we're trying to kind of have the first move for Scuttle Crab if we need to. Now I kill my opponent level 1, I crash on wave 3, then I base teleport, and you can see here that the enemy jungler, which is Talon, right, you see him on the minimap, and my jungler, Jarvan, they're both topside right now. So if theoretically, if they don't make this play on mid lane, let's say they don't just make this play, and they want to get Scuttle Crab, the wave is slow pushing towards me. And because of that, I have a move, right? Because I'm not losing a lot by moving, compared to if the wave was slow pushing towards him, I would lose basically a full wave if I moved, right? So here I'm completely allowed to just move to the Scuttle Crab if I need to. However, there is no fight on Scuttle Crab right now, and I'm just waiting for it to spawn, and my team dies before we can even contest the Scuttle. But in theory, if this fight on mid lane doesn't happen, I have the first move. Look, right now I'm close to Scuttle Crab. I can get this Scuttle Crab before my Jarvan and then come back top lane and just chill, right? We can also look to, after Scuttle Crab, maybe kill the Yorick, and if Talon answers it, we have to ask ourselves, do we win that despite Talon being there too? Probably not, okay? In this case, we don't want to take a 2v2, but that just, you see how many doors open for you if you get the first crash. So like even in the 2v2 scenario, and let's say Talon was invading my jungler's topside or something, or I don't know, let's say something stupid, then you could also move, right? So yeah, this is just super clear cut. Let's go over a situation where we are playing Camille against Cho'Gath and both junglers are starting topside, which means that they're both going towards bot, and I'm playing isolation this time, right? Okay, so in isolation, what we're looking to do is just trying to push our individual lead as much as possible. So the way we play the waves is we're going to try and get priority, and we're just trading as much as we can, right? I mean, this Cho'Gath already used 2 potions by minute 2, and I'm just trading a lot because I know that I can trade a lot, because I know that both junglers are going to be, well, not really interacting with top lane in this game. All I need to worry about is Kindred's 3 camps into top angle, because she can actually put your mark on you and then like do cheese gank, maybe jump over the wall at Nash Pit, right? So that's something I do have to worry about a little bit, but other than that, I can just play my wave however I want, right? I can just walk up and trade as much as I like, especially in like these early matchups that are actually good for Camille, right? You can walk up and trade, and like, yeah, I mean, I force this guy's teleport at minute 3, and then I keep playing the lane, and at some point I crash the wave, and I just like wait for my Sheen. And then I put him really low, and both junglers are topside right now because they did a full clear and they recalled. And yeah, this is just something that that we really can just do, right? I mean, it's just like a 1v1 game at this point, but yeah. Alright guys, in this next section of the video, I'll be going over all the small, intricate details and tips and tricks I can give you to play out your early laning phase as well as possible, and to increase the odds of you getting that first crash. So that being said, let's get into this last part of the video, which we will call the execution phase. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to execution is your setup, right? Your laning setup. When you choose between, let's say, Dorn's Shield and Dorn's Blade, the item you go is determined by the way trades look in your lane. I'll give you an example. If you play Olaf and you play against Darius, right? You know that whenever you trade on him, it's most likely going to be an all-in. So, do you go D-Blade or D-Shield? The answer is D-Blade. Why? Because D-Blade is better for all-ins, right? You have more AD, more health. No, not more health. You have more lifesteal and AD, right? It's designed to give you more strength when you fight someone. Whereas D-Shield gives you more sustain, and the more different intervals or instances of damage the enemy does to you, the more value D-Shield gives, right? So you would go D-Shield against a champion like Cannon, right? You would go D-Shield against a champion like Gnar, but you wouldn't go D-Blade against Cannon or Gnar, because D-Shield gives too much value. So think about, how does my lane look? Am I going to all in them, or am I going to play safe? Your runes are also super important, right? If I'm playing Aatrox and I'm playing against, let's say, Ambessa, I know that I'm never going to be able to stack my Conqueror. Why? Because her champion is going to do short trades and get out, and after doing that 2 or 3 times, I'm going to be too low to trade back. And also in this matchup, she has too many dashes, so by the time I'm trying to stack my Conqueror, it's already too late. So I go Grasp against Ambessa, because there are no other good runes for me in that matchup, and I can actually look to auto-attack her sometimes and get some value out of that, right? So I know that my runes are determined by the way the trades go inside the lane. This is a little bit of knowledge and experience and champion mastery, but it's also just kind of rational thinking, right? Does my rune setup actually make sense this game? Yes or no? When do you go bone plating versus second wind? If the enemy top laner, let's say you're playing Aatrox and the enemy top laner is Set, right? You know that bone plating has a lot of value, because anytime he does E auto on you, you block a lot of damage. Or the same for Riven, right? But if you're playing as like Camille, for example, she can proc your bone plating with her W quite easily, actually, and then she's going to be able to just E on you and your bone plating is gone, right? So okay, against Camille you don't go bone plating, you go maybe second wind or something else. In some matchups even, the whole win condition of the matchup is to cheese you level 1 and zone you from the first 3 melee XPs. So in order to prevent that, often we literally just go bone plating purely to avoid getting cheesed, right? So let's say you play a very weak champion like Kayle against a very strong champion like Set or Riven. You can actually take a trade level 1 on purpose to proc your bone plating, and then you don't lose XP because Riven, the wave will push towards you if she does that trade in your wave. And then once the bounce happens, right, the wave pushes back into her, your bone plating will be up again, and you can do the same thing, right? You can stand in your wave, let her trade onto you, wave will push back to you. So the runes you go also are determined by the way your matchup, the trading specifically, goes. Now I don't expect you, if you're a lower elo player, to know all this, but as you climb the ranks, this is something you have to adapt to. Okay, a small tip I can give you if you are a Grasp user is often, if you're playing Grasp, you kind of need to have it as soon as possible. So a way to do that is to actually just walk up to the wave and tank the minions on purpose, because Grasp starts the moment you take damage, right? If you're playing Aatrox, for example, this is super nice because you can already have your Grasp before the opponent, and like now, for example, boom, I have Grasp, he doesn't yet, so I can walk up aggressively if I want to and get the first Grasp trade if I want to, right? So yeah, that's a nice trick I can give you. So all you have to do is just take the mean aggro and then you have the first Grasp proc. That's like a good little tip. Okay, let's talk about the level 1 cheese. This is a very, very important moment in the game, and you need to be super good at executing this on both sides, okay? So the idea here is that since I'm such a strong champion compared to my opponent level 1, I'm going to try and walk around the wave and zone them from the XP of the 3 melee creeps, okay? How am I going to do that? Well, I need to be behind him and between him and his turret. So I want to walk around the wave, but first we let the wave settle, meaning that we stand away from the wave so we don't get the aggro from the creeps, and the wave has to be in the middle, okay? Also important to note that if these creeps attack me at any point, the fact that they're not attacking the enemy creeps means that we are getting priority and the wave is pushing towards him, because think about it. My minions are attacking his creeps, but some of his creeps are attacking me, and therefore my minions are winning the 6v6, right? Since they're winning the 6v6, now the wave will push towards him and he won't lose as much XP. So we're going to try and avoid hitting him when we're in these caster creeps range. Look at what he's doing. Why isn't he walking towards his turret? Why do you think that is? It's because he knows this. All he wants to do is let me auto him on purpose. And if I can auto him on purpose and have those caster creeps attack me, he knows that he's good, right? He'll take a small trade just for that, because he doesn't want to lose that XP. But I know better, right? I am a good player. I know that he wants me to do that. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna attack him, but click down, okay? Most people would click up, but I'm clicking down. Why? Because these caster creeps will stop attacking me. So now he's in a position where he's too far away from his tower, and now I'm going to just commit to the trade. These caster creeps are a little bit bugged. Sometimes they just don't aggro onto you, which is super nice. And this guy didn't start E for some reason. But yeah, so now we get like a super extended good trade, and he lost quite some XP there. Now, step 2 is to we don't want a single time to take the enemy caster creep aggro. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna walk around the wave. We're walking around, right? We don't want to take any aggro whatsoever. And we also don't really care too much about getting gold. We only care about zoning him from XP. So again, we walk around, and a really crucial detail here is my camera position, right? Guys, look at where my camera is positioned. I have peripheral vision right now. I can see exactly which minions are dying from both the enemy and my team, right? But I also have my champion in the bottom left corner, and I can really easily just track everything that's happening, right? So he's losing an insane amount of XP. I am gaining a lot of XP. Another important detail is that what I show you here is that whenever creeps kill a creep, they're looking for their next target, and they're coded to look at the closest target to aggro, right? So after a creep dies, you want to stand away from the creep aggro range so that they don't aggro onto you, because as you know now, if they attack you, the wave will push towards the enemies, right? So you're trying to always stand outside the aggro range. So let's go back here. So now this guy is level 1, I'm level 2. I'm gonna just do this extended trade, right? He's still losing XP, he just lost another caster creep, I gained it. And even though I only have 1 CS, I don't care that I'm not getting any gold. I only care about zoning him from XP, because now, using my XP lead in the future, I can actually zone him from a lot more. Right, so here again, important detail, we walk back to our wave, and after this wave settles, meaning that they chose all their targets, we walk around like this. And now we're going to keep zoning from XP. At some point the wave will crash, and now we're level 4 to level 1 almost, right? We're level 3 to level 1 right now. We get like another good trade here, right? Boom. We trade. And then here we just dive him. Like, he is just 1 HP. He flashes, he dies, and now I'm level 4 to level 1, which is pretty insane. So yeah, that is a really good way of doing this. And there is almost no counterplay if you do this perfectly. Now the thing is, not many players know how to do this perfectly. Also, not many players know that the wave is actually closer to the red side of the lane. Yes, look at the distance between the wall and the caster creeps, right? It's a lot bigger on blue side. Why is that? Because the wave is not fully 100% in the middle. It's actually a little bit closer to the right side, to the red side. And that allows you to walk around the wave a lot easier when you're playing red side, which is the side I'm playing this game. So yeah, make sure you guys dodge the aggro creeps, the range creeps aggro, and make sure you always let the wave settle, and you try to take as little aggro as possible from the entire wave. So like here as well, right? And you can also see that I went D-Blade this game and I have Conk. So that is how you zone the enemy from XP and just completely fuck their game. So the truth here, guys, is when you're getting zoned from XP level 1, there is almost no counterplay, but most people do it wrong, okay? So let's talk about what your options are to not lose those 3 XPs. Now, let's say you're playing Aatrox in this case, and the enemy's playing Darius, which is a very strong champion early. You have a couple options, okay? First of all, most people will go into this bush, wait for the wave to settle in the middle like this, okay? And then they're going to walk out of the bush and try to fight you. So the first option you have is, well, ward the bush, right? If you ward the bush and the enemy wave comes, a lot of people will stand in the wrong spot. They will stand right here. Your wave comes and attacks him, and then he has to walk away, and then you're fine. But if he stands in the proper spot, which would be here, then the wave won't aggro onto him, even if you have that ward. Okay, fine. The wave settles, he walks around. What is our goal? Our goal is to get him to attack us within our ranged creep aggro range, okay? Now, a lot of people don't respect this. I, for one, am really conscious of this, and I'm trying to avoid that aggro. But as Aatrox, what my plan would be is to start E. I would let him auto-attack me on purpose, have my range creeps attack him, and then E out. And then as long as he doesn't get 5 stacks, I'm good. Also, I would take bone plating for this exact reason, right? As I talked about earlier. if you have bone plating, you can actually take this trade and it won't even be that bad, right? You can take it on purpose. You maybe autos you block 2 things with bone plating, and then by the time the wave crashes and pushes back into him, you'll have it up again. So that's one way to do it, right? You can ward and you can take a trade on purpose. Another thing you can do often in some matchups is, I will show you, you can actually if you play Aatrox against, let's say, Olaf or Darius, you can take D-Blade Ignite and stand your ground. You know, a lot of times the enemy top laner will not expect you to be that strong early, but for example, right, Olaf. This champion is definitely stronger than Aatrox in all-ins, but if I stand in my creeps and I pop my pot early and I use my Ignite for Kong stacks to cut his healing, and I really just trust in the fact that my champion is not that weak early, I can still win that all-in. You know what I mean? Like, if you're playing inside of your wave and the enemy top lane just all-ins you in it, sometimes, and this is just a combination of like knowledge and experience, sometimes you can still win, and this is exactly why I personally like taking aggressive setups. I like going Flash Ignite against champions that I know will not have TP, right? So if I'm playing against an Olaf or Darius, I assume that they will have Ghost Flash and not TP Flash, right? So I'll just take Ignite to match their combat sum, and then whenever the wave is pushing towards them, I actually have a bigger chance of winning the all-in, because as you know, at some point the wave will freeze for them if they get the first crash, and you're going to have to fight it, otherwise you're going to lose farm, right? So you have to prepare yourself for that, but this is a good way to go about it, right? And even if they are a stronger champion level 1, you can sometimes still fight them. The same thing for, like, let's say you're playing Kayle against Fiora. Your champion actually beats Fiora level 1, so if you want to prevent getting zoned from XP, you can just fight her, right, in your wave. So there are a couple ways to prevent this, and these are the main ones. Okay, next up, real quick, I want to talk about dropping mean aggro. It's just a small thing, but it will add up in your games. So whenever you're doing an aggressive trade, all you have to do after auto-attacking to drop the aggro from the enemy creeps is just to walk into the bush very subtly. Look, instantly, boom, they stop aggro now. And stuff like this, where you do a trade and then walk into the bush, they are small things, yes, but they do add up in the bigger picture, right? Because you're not like having the enemy range creeps attack you like maybe 6 times will actually do a lot of damage, right? So also you can see after this trade, anytime I am auto-attacking the enemy, I have to just click out, just click backwards, right? Because I need to drop all that aggro. And you see that I successfully did it here, and now I can walk up again. Okay guys, so this is another example of the collective mean health bar battle. Both me and York want to get priority in this matchup. Because as you know, that's a good thing, no matter what, right? You want priority. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, we really want to hit him and his wave at the same time as much as possible. And since he's autoing my wave off cooldown, I need to auto his wave off cooldown as well. Because every auto he gets that I don't get, he's getting a little bit more of damage on my collective health bar, right? So here, boom, I Q him and 2 creeps at the same time. That's a very good thing. He is going to spawn his ghouls and stuff, right? I need to respect somewhat. Okay, his ghouls are going to help him win the collective mean health bar battle, but I'm going to fight back, right? Here, very important detail. A lot of people would save their potion until they're really low to heal back up, but you need to use your potion to stay high HP, right? Because if you're high HP, you're much of a bigger threat. So use your pots to stay above 50% health. Don't use your pots to get to 50% health. Use your pots to stay high HP, because if you stay high HP, you're actually a threat, right? Because think about it this way. If you're low HP and you pop your pot and he all-ins you, often 50% of your potion value doesn't even get used. You die before you can use that value. So staying high HP with your potions is better to go back to mid HP, right? So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm trying to hit his wave as much as possible. Right now he walks up aggressively, but you can see I have 4 minions, he has 3. The reason is I'm trying to hit his wave as much as possible and trade at the same time as much as possible. So here I Q him, right? I use another potion here. I use both my pots already to stay high HP, and then we can actually get the first crash. And now, if we get the first crash, if we get the slow push, we get level 3 first, and if we get level 3, we can actually play aggressively here, and if we get the first crash, that means that we can avoid the enemy jungler's gank timer, or here we have priority for the scuttle grab, right? So boom, we trade here, really nice trade inside of his entire wave, gonna deal massive damage to his collective mean health bar, that imaginary thing that you just have to kind of imagine, right? The mean health bar, and then here we just get the crash and he can't do anything about it. And now we can base, right? The enemy jungler thinks I'm helping at scuttle because he doesn't see me, and now we can base and teleport back and play aggressively. And that's kind of the concept that I want you to think about. Also imagine you're playing, like, let's say Gragas against Camille, right? The Gragas in that matchup can only get priority if he trades onto Camille, but also hits her wave at the same time with, let's say, E, right? Level 1 E. So as Camille, all you need to do is stand on the side of your wave, so that Gragas has to choose between Eing you, but not your creeps, or Eing your creeps, but not you. Either way, it's a good outcome, right? Because if he trades you, now his E is down, you can get control of the wave. If he E's your creeps only, then his E is down, you can get a trade onto him, right? So this is the concept that I want you to think about and master. I think this is a good segue to talk about when you should stand inside of your wave and when you should stand on the side of your wave. So you should stand on the side of your wave if you're playing against a champion who can poke you, but if the wave is pushing away from you, right? So for example here, Gragas' win condition in this matchup is to poke me down until 50% health and then do a one-shot combo. I can prevent that, because here I'm making a dilemma for him. Either he trades onto me and loses the farm, or he uses his abilities to farm, but then I can trade onto him. Right, so if I were to stand in my wave here, he would get the value of trading onto me and also getting the farm. So consciously, I'm going to stand on the side of the wave to get this trade. And then if he walks up the farm, I can get an extended trade like that. And then, well, he's kind of screwed, right? Here again, I'm standing. Where am I standing? I'm standing not in this mean. I'm standing away from the mean, so that if he queues the creep, he can't trade onto me, but if he queues me, I can E out and he'll lose the creep. So we're creating dilemmas for the enemy, where no matter what option they choose, it's always going to be a bad option, and that's how to get consistent leads in League of Legends. You can see here as well, right? I'm standing on the side of this wave, he's queuing my backline, now I know that his queue's down, I can get a good extended trade onto him, and this is just my game plan the entire game, right? I'm just going to constantly be doing this, just standing on the side of the wave here, look. Another thing that really helps when you're standing on the side of the wave, if they overstep even 1 millimeter, you can walk around them. You can go like this and get a really extended trade onto them. And that doesn't happen when you're standing inside of your wave. Because if they're standing here and you're standing here, if you walk at them, they can just walk straight out. But if you're creating an angle like this, if they walk straight out, they're going to walk into this wall right here. And at some point, they have to trade onto you. So standing on the side of your wave is good for that reason. Now another thing you can do is you can manipulate the opponent to make the wave push back into you. If you're playing a matchup where you want the wave on your side at all times, right? Why would you want the wave on your side? Because if the wave is on his side, you're far away from your tower and he has a lot of room to either get you killed by a gank or just to kill you solo, because the room he has is enough for him to all in you. So how do you prevent the wave from pushing back into the opponent? Now, if he just crashed a wave and it's pushing back towards you, which is just like a normal sequence in League of Legends, right? It's very, very common. If you stand inside of your wave on purpose, make him trade onto you and use his Q on your minions, the fact that he's hitting your wave means that it's now pushing back towards you. Why? Because the collective mean health bar is lower on your side and therefore it pushes back towards you. So you can stand in your wave on purpose if you want the wave to push back to you, and you can stand outside of your wave on purpose if you want the wave to push into them. Okay, let's talk about the freeze in League of Legends. Very common that you're playing a matchup where the end goal is to get a freeze, okay? But often people screw this up. How do you get a freeze? Well, the way you get a freeze is by letting the wave push towards you, and at some point the wave will be frozen on your side, because the enemy means will always be the wave will always be a little bit bigger than yours, and you can just keep that cycle going while the enemy is losing farm. And if they ever walk up to farm, often what will happen is they will die, right? Because they're very far away from their tower, and you can run them down on champions most champions can run them down if they're that far from the turret. So my plan here is to early game slow push wave 1, okay? Then I'm going to hard push wave 2. Wave 3, crucial that you do not trade onto him. he is abusing what I just taught you. He's standing inside of his wave. He really wants me to trade onto him here, because if I trade onto him here, the wave will push back into him because I'm hitting his minions. Or even if I don't hit his minions, if I'm auto-attacking him, his creeps are auto-attacking me, and therefore the wave will push back into him because my minions are not auto-attacking him, yet his creeps are auto-attacking me, right? So here, all I have to do is sit back, do nothing, and I know it sucks, especially a lot of people I coach, they have a mental block against like champions like Kale and Nasus. They feel pressure to just trade, but you have to just take one step back and take 2 steps forward later, right? So here, make sure you last hit these creeps on the latest frames you can. Do not walk up and trade. It's very, very dangerous. Make sure you're standing outside of your wave, not inside of your wave. And here, all you have to do is be patient, be patient, be patient. My jungler is coming. He's going to do top gank and then scuttle crab and then another top gank. And all I want here is for this wave to be frozen on my side, which is not yet. After this wave here, it will be frozen. But already he's really screwed, because like he is so far away from his turret. We can easily kill him here. We're playing Cho'Gath, we're playing Olaf Darius, right? Insane amount of early damage. He dies, and even though the enemy jungler is here, we can still thin out the wave. Now, what does thinning out the wave mean? That means that we need his wave to be a bit smaller. Why do we need his wave to be smaller? Because if we want to all-in Cho'Gath, we need to make sure that his wave isn't too big, because often when the wave is really big, he can actually win the all-in with the added damage from the creeps. And also, if we want to freeze, we need to make sure that his creep wave is about 3 to 5 creeps bigger than our creep wave, but we don't want his wave to be 8 creeps more than ours, right? So here, we need to start hitting this wave, which we do. We thin out the wave. And then here we want to base TP, because now Cho'Gath doesn't have flash and TP, and this freeze right here, if we can actually base TP here, we can basically just completely perma-freeze on him and it's GG. However, I decide that my champion is very strong early game. I still have a cookie and I'm level 4, so I'm going to just fight him here. I know that he doesn't have flash. I know that the chance that I win this is pretty big, because my W shield and lifesteal and my cookie, right, end up killing him, and now this is GG, right? He doesn't have TP, he doesn't have flash, I have a freeze. I can just thin the wave a little bit and then base TP, and then the game's just completely GG here, you know? And this is how you set up a freeze. And I think the main thing that I want you guys to worry about is this part right here, not hitting the wave too much whenever it's pushing back towards you. Just chill, let the wave come, thin it a little bit, let your jungler do the work, and then it's just GG. Alright, another really important thing when it comes to execution is level up timers. Now, you need to know these level up timers, and at some point in your league career, you're going to have to spend 20 to 40 games just focusing on every single level up timer to get good at them. Because not only your first level up timer is important, but every one until level 6 is super crucial to playing out your laning phase. So, the first level up timer you get is after killing 1 wave plus 1 melee creep. Now, there is a variation of this as well. If you kill 4 melee creeps and 2 casters, which is 6 creeps, you also get level 2. So how does that look? Well, if the second wave is already there and you didn't kill 3 casters yet, but you can actually kill one of the melee creeps of the enemy wave, you get level 2, but that's a pretty niche one. However, the less niche one is when you kill the entire first wave and then the first creep of the second wave. And you need to know that a level up early game is not only you get your ability before the enemy, right, the second ability, but also a level up in terms of stats, right? You get more mana and HP and AD and armor and MR, whatever. Is about 500 to 600 gold worth of stats, and often that will be the difference maker. The second level up timer is whenever you kill 2 melee creeps off the third wave. Okay, so the third melee wave, which often is on the bounce, you will hit level 3. The fourth level up timer is the cannon wave, the cannon wave, that's wave 4. When that wave has 2 ranged creeps left, you hit level 4. Now level 5 is a little bit more basic, right? Level 5 you hit whenever you kill wave, I think wave 6, yeah, the 6th wave, you hit level 5, and then the wave that spawns at minute 500 at the clock, right? So you look at the clock for this wave. If you did not miss a single creep of XP, that normal wave on minute 530 in your lane will give you level 6, right? So You need to know this, but for now we're mostly going to be looking at your level 2 and 3 level up timers, and I'll give you some examples. Okay, the first example I can give you is of this game where I play Camille against Yorick. Now, I'm already really stomping this guy, but it's still not enough, right? So here, you can see that I am going to level up on this creep right here. It's 6 creeps in total, because the enemy backline still has 4 creeps, right? So, but you level up on 4 melees and 2 casters, or 7 minions, right? So right now, I know that I will level up on this creep, so I walk back, right? Why do I walk back? Because it gives him space, right? It gives him a false sense of security. Why is he walking back? Oh, he's going to click forward. Now I hit level 2. He's too far up now. I'm playing Camille. I can just E on his head, right? And now I use my level 2 timer to get a clean, quick kill. In this vault, I also use my level up timer to get a good trade this time. So a lot of people don't realize that you don't need to actually last hit the creep in order to level up, right? Your creeps will kill that creep for you. So you can already start walking up once that creep is on its way to dying, right? So here I know that I will level up mid-trade because that creep is about to die. I do, and then because of it I get a pretty good extended trade because I can level my E and have better stats. Right, so let's look at it again, right? Make sure that you have 6 creeps, and then on the creep where you level up, you can already start walking up aggressively, go around the wave, walk behind them, get the super extended trade, and that's a really, really big lead that we're getting individually right now, right? So that's a good example as well. Another good example I can give you is not even using your level up timer, but just threatening it, you know? If I can hit the wave before this guy and win the collective mean health bar, he knows that if he fights me right now, I am close to leveling up and he cannot fight me any further. So the threat of me leveling up, because he is also a good player, he knows that I will level up, he's going to respect it. The fact that I'm a level above him makes it so that he cannot walk up and trade anymore. Look how much space he's giving me. He's giving me all this room to crash his wave, right? If he was level 2, he would maybe make it hard for me to crash the wave by like kind of walking in my face and contesting me a little bit. But even now, even after missing my Q, I can still walk up and threaten to stop him from holding the wave, which is just super, super nice to do, right? So your level up timers are really, really important. Now here, I know that he is going to hit level 3 after killing 2 melee creeps, so I have to respect that. If this guy is a good player, he will walk up and try to zone me from XP, because he can do that, right? I cannot fight him back. I could theoretically fight him back, but then I would have to walk up and hit the creeps first and then get level 3. But Darius wins against Olaf once they're both level 3. So here I know that if he walks up and gets to zone me from XP here, I have to just walk away. I even go as far as taking a bad trade here. So if this guy walked up a bit earlier, he would be in a very good spot, because he could just stop me from even getting the XP in the first place. So yeah, he's using his level up timer really well here, right? Alright guys, I know it's been a long time coming, but this will be the last thing we talk about, okay? The final thing we talk about is the first recall concept. Whenever you're playing a champion without TP and the enemy champion is playing either with or without TP, you need to understand that if you don't get the first recall, you are screwed in most cases. Let me explain. So, whenever you don't have TP, it's really important that we still get priority, right? We still want priority to have all this jungle tracking, this 2v2, right? We want to play our lane correctly and we want to put the enemy in a bad position. However, if we get, let's say, a 2-wave crash and we let the wave push into us, right? And the enemy jungler is coming towards us and ours isn't. Or if they're both coming towards us but you can't contest the bounce. If the enemy top laner gets the crash here and gets the first recall, which often they will be able to do after crashing the wave, we're now in a really bad position, because we cannot base TP back to our wave, and our wave is pushing towards the enemies, right? So usually we have to flip, either one-shotting this wave and hoping that they didn't stay, but if they did, now they're freezing it, or we have to slow push this wave, and then by the time we're here and hard shoving the next wave, they're already back, they can freeze it as well. So how do we prevent this scenario from happening? Because when they're back and you have an item lead and the HP level, 100% HP lead, well, then we're in a really bad spot. So the way we prevent this is to get the first recall. How do we do that? Well, there's a couple ways. First of all, you can do a 2-wave crash and then proxy wave 3 and then base, and then when you spend your gold and come back with 100% health, the wave will be dead center in the middle, and then you can start the process all over again, right? So then we get the first recall and we're in a good spot. The other option you have is after crashing wave 2, you can try and crash, you can try and push the wave back into them, but in order to do that you need to match their level 3 timer, right? So whenever you crash wave 2, you really want to make sure that you kill the 2 melee creeps fast, make it push back into them. You can maybe crash on wave 3 or 4 or 5 even. You can even maybe add a proxy on top of that if you know where the enemy jungler started and you know it's safe. And that way you again get the first crash, right? And that's sorry, not the first crash, the first recall, right? So that is something that you have to also be very, very cautious of. Now, if the enemy doesn't have TP and you also don't have TP, as long as you know for sure that if you crash wave 2 and let it push back towards you, and you know your matchup and you know your limits, and you know both junglers' pathings, and you know that you can for sure all-in them here and then base, often if they don't have TP, you can just thin the wave, base, come back, and the wave is good. If they do have TP and you kill them, you need to do that instantly. You need to just instantly base and come back, because if they TP back, you're stuck in lane, you're lane locked now, and you really don't want this situation. So if you don't have TP, find a way to get the first recall. Alright, that was it guys. My final thoughts on this. If you master all of these concepts and play your first 4 waves absolutely perfectly, you will win 200% more games. Like if you this is the most important part of top lane, the first 4 waves. If you play these 100% perfectly, you will always be in a good position for the rest of your lane and also for the rest of the game. So feel free to give me any feedback. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, big shout out to you. Let me know what you thought about the video, if you want to see more videos like these. Also, I do individual one-on-one coaching, so hit me up. There is a link to my Discord. You can add me there, and I have a document with it. If you want to have me review your gameplay and actually talk with you one-on-one and actually help you understand where your bad habits lay, and I can help you master these things, right, and actually climb, then we can work together. Yeah, and other than that, I want to thank you all a lot for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace out.